Savior on that cursed tree. His body bound and drenched in tears, they laid him down in Joseph's tomb, the entrance sealed by heavy stone, Messiah still and all alone. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise. Oh Lord our God. Then on the third, at break of dawn, the Son of Heaven rose again. Oh, trampled death, where is your sting? The angels roar for Christ the King. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise. Oh Lord our God. Shall return in robes of white, the blazing sun shall pierce the night, and I will rise among the saints, my gaze transfixed on Jesus' face. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise. Oh Lord our God. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise. Oh Lord our God. Oh Lord our God. Oh Lord our God. You may have a seat. Right, in just a moment we'll have our time for our offering, our general offering, and at the same time our Thanksgiving box. Our Thanksgiving box for this week continues to go to City Mission, and we're purchasing blankets and swags for the homeless. Who's found it a little bit cold this week? I don't think too many of us would like to be sleeping out on the streets, so if we can contribute in money so that we can purchase those, or if any have bought blankets or things to keep people warm, that would be great. Even thinking about being cold, I think we had one or two students that were trapped up on Ben Lomond for an extra night because they couldn't get off the mountain. So Heidi was one, and I think Liam up the back was another. So they had a cold couple of days, but I guess that's why you go there. So if you'd like to come forward with your offerings now, that'd be great. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. The reading comes from Luke 15. Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." Then Jesus told them this parable. Suppose one of you had 100 sheep and loses one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. And then he calls his friends and neighbours together and says, "Rejoice with me, I've found my lost sheep." I tell you that in the same way, there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over the 99 righteous people who do not need to repent. Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Doesn't she light a lamp and sweep the house and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbours together and says, "Rejoice with me, I've found my lost coin." In the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, Father, give me my share of the estate." So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare? And here I am starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like you and your hired servants.' So he got up and he went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. And he ran to his son, threw his arms around him and kissed him. The son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Quick, bring the best robe and put put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate, for this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and he is found. So they began to celebrate. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near to the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. Your brother has come home, he replied, and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound. The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, look, all of these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat, so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property and with prostitutes, has come home, you kill the fattened calf for him. My son, the father said, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad, because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and he is found.
Thanks for that, Peter. A well-known passage from the book of Luke, which Pastor Nick will be speaking on a little bit later. And I pray that even though it's well known, that we might all learn something new from it this morning. If I could have our singers back up. We're going to sing a few more songs before we hand over to Pastor Nick. Stand. Darkness tries to roll over my bones, when sorrow comes to steal the joy I own, when brokenness and pain is all I know, I won't be shaken, I won't be shaken. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Shame no longer has a place to hide. I am not a captive to the lies. I'm not afraid to leave my past behind. I won't be shaken. I won't be shaken. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. There's power that can break off every chain. There's power that can empty out a grave. There's resurrection power that can save. There's power in your can break off every chain. There's power that can empty out a grave. There's resurrection power that can save. There's power in your name. Power in your name. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. I could stand outside your gates and never enter in. I could let this moment pass and go my way again. I could just keep silent and hold from you my praise, or I could give my heart away. I choose to worship. I choose to love you, to reach out and touch your heart. I want to know you here in this moment. Oh, I choose to worship you. I won't stand outside your gates and never enter in. I won't let this moment pass and go my way again. How can I keep silent and hold from you my praise? Lord, I give my heart away. I choose to worship. I choose to love you, to reach out and touch your heart. I want to know you here in this moment. Oh, I choose to worship you. I choose to worship. I choose to love you, to reach out and touch your heart. I want to know you here in this moment. Oh, I choose to worship you. I choose to worship you. I choose to worship you. You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. From my mother's womb, you had chosen me. Love has called my name. I've been born again into your family. Love has called my name. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears were drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and sing. I am a child of God. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears were drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and sing. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. Thank you, Pastor Nick.
So good to have everyone here today, and those of you that are joining us online, we're very glad that you can be with us as well. And some people will watch at the same time the church is going on consecutively, and other people will join us a bit later. You're welcome either way. 3 stories were told this morning, and thank you, Peter, for reading those for us. Quite a long reading. And often when we preach, we might actually deal with those stories one-on-one. But I think the thing we really should see is that they're put together. This is like Jesus' 3-point sermon. He put those 3 stories together, and Luke told them that way so that we could hear the incredible heart of God for lost people. Now, I don't know, you might have noticed there's a bit of a trajectory going on there. 1 lost, 99 still found. And the passion that person would feel for that one that was lost, that shepherd. Then there was a lady who had 10 coins and one got lost, and she went out searching everywhere for 10% of her wealth. And obviously, you're going to care about that. And then there was a guy who lost 1 out of 2 sons. And you go from 1% to 10% to 50%. And I think you're going to get more and more desperate, aren't you? I think we spoke just a few weeks ago that if you looked at our nation, maybe 7% of our population are churchgoers, regular church attenders on a Sunday. And, in our own area here in Tasmania, that may be quite a fair bit lower. So I think we probably should have an understanding that it's not a matter of leaving the 99 behind to search for the 1. It's probably more a matter of leaving the 5% behind to search for the 95. That's how important this is. So today, and throughout this period, as we go through Luke a bit more, I think for September we've decided we're going to step into the book of Colossians and just have a little bit of step away from Luke for a while. But as we look through this portion of Luke's gospel, we're going to see more and more the heart of God and the heart of Jesus, who came to seek and save that which was lost. In fact, Luke 19, that's the very quote Jesus says to define his own ministry. He came for the purpose of bringing lost people back to God. And I want us to get the heart of God. So today, I want to take these three parables and the ones that Jesus told, and not just hear them as individual stories, but hear the overall message and get the overall heart of God for people. I won't be getting bogged down in detail. Now, I might come back and revisit some of these stories later. That would be okay, but today's more of an overview, if that's okay. Today, I want you to hear that God loves people passionately, and he wants us to love people and care for the lost just the same way. Each story talks about the incredible lengths that God or that the person went to restore the lost item, and the incredible joy that happened when they were found. So that's the way God feels about us. He has incredible joy. Now, I can't think of anything better than making parties happen in heaven. If one sinner comes back to Christ, God throws a party. More joy in heaven over one sinner. I'm looking forward to the day, and we're going to have to look back into Luke 14 in a couple of weeks, where we talk about the marriage feast. But the celebration that is meant to be attributed to this. Now, I'm not into having a religion that looks like you've been sucking on lemons. I think joy is part of the way Christianity should be. It should be joyous. We should be full of joy. And heaven loves to throw parties. And I'm looking forward to the day when we get to be part of that last, final party. I don't know how long it goes on for. It might go on for millennia. It won't make any difference because we've got forever. I hope there's more than just one. Well, let's quickly look at the first of the three parables, the lost sheep. 99 sheep, safe and sound. But then you've got one sheep who's gone and wandered. Now, when I read this story, I kind of remember just how important sheep were within the story of Israel. You've got the story of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob all having sheep. They had flocks. In fact, Jacob became incredibly wealthy from his uncle Laban by taking and dishonestly manipulating the situation to get the flocks for himself. You have Israel known in Egypt as being the people who cared for the sheep and being despised a little by the Egyptians, but yet that was what they did. Then you come across to David. Remember young David, left out there in the bush, neglected and not cared about by his family because he was looking after the sheep. But God saw him as someone who cared for sheep and said, that guy will care for my kingdom. That guy is the kind of guy I want to be my king. God picked David. David, throughout the period of his ministry, kingship, sometimes good, sometimes bad, the Bible said about him, he was a man after God's own heart. Caring for the sheep, caring for the people of Israel the same way he cared for his sheep, made him a man after God's own heart. But remember one time, David had been out there and he had committed adultery with Bathsheba. And when he did this, he kind of brushed it aside and left it off to the side and thought, I can get away with this, it's okay. And not just had he committed adultery, but he then murdered the husband, took the woman for himself, manipulated the whole situation around to try and protect his own reputation. And God sent prophet Nathan to come and expose it. And the story he told was about this guy who had 1,000 sheep. And his neighbour has one, and instead of having 1,000, and a friend comes to a party, he says, well, I'll go and get that guy's one sheep and kill it, and we'll have a party with that sheep. Sheep, again, throughout the story of Israel, Jesus talks about himself, or the Bible talks about Jesus being the Lamb of God, taking away the sin of the world. Sheep matter. For a pastoral country like Australia and Tasmania, this area, sheep matter. And we grow up and we know about sheep. Like we talked the other week about sheep traps and sheep trails. So someone might be watching in America, maybe you don't have sheep, or maybe you're in some other country where sheep are not so important. But in this nation, we're said to have ridden on the back of the sheep. That Australia is a country that was made by having so many sheep. In fact, the New Zealanders are said to have more, like 3 times more sheep than they have people. Well, I think Australia probably has the same. Sheep matter, but I can't imagine any one of us saying, well, if I lost one sheep, I'll just leave the 99 behind. I'll just go out and get that one and run the risk of losing the 99. See, my logic would say, well, one sheep, that's about, I don't know what they're worth now, probably $80 or $100, I don't know, maybe more. But really, let's just cut my losses. But why was it so important? Why was one sheep so important? I kind of think of it like this. A guy who had 100 sheep is a wealthy man. A guy with 99 sheep is not quite as wealthy. Imagine having $999,999 in your bank. You're not quite a millionaire. $1 short. If that was me, I would be the richest beggar that you've ever met. Hey, buddy, can you spare me $1? Hey, do you mind? Can I just, how about $1? Can you just give me $1? Because once I got that $1, I'm a millionaire. Well, this guy, the shepherd, has lost one sheep. And the truth is that maybe with that lost sheep, he had to give account for where it had gone. If he could not prove that it had been taken by wildlife and devoured by a wolf, then it was at his expense. This poor shepherd. So the wealth that belonged to this other man, he's now lost one. Well, he's done everything he could to go and find that one sheep because he does not risk being thought to be a thief, to risk his integrity, to risk his reputation. That poor shepherd, that was his future career and his future job. His whole livelihood was at stake with that one lost sheep. Not only that, a good shepherd loves his sheep. And he wanted to go and find that sheep. You might be asking the question, if you go looking for one sheep, don't you run the risk of neglecting the 99? And we'll look at that question in a little while, but I want you to hold that thought in tension for the moment, because I will try and answer it as we go along. But now let's look at the woman with 10 coins. I don't know about you, but I think this coronavirus has probably affected most of our super. Is that right? If you watched your balance, it's gone down. For businesses, they've done it harder. People with bank balances have decreased. Maybe some people with property, their properties have gone up. I don't know. Other people, their properties have gone down. But people who watch their dollar value decrease start to get very, very anxious, especially the older you get. When you're younger, it's not quite so important. But when that's how you live on your savings, when you start to lose your savings, you start to get worried. But why would this lady be so worried about one coin? I mean, 10% is a large percentage, isn't it? That's a lot of money to lose. If you have 100,000, losing 10,000, that's a lot of money to lose. She's lost one coin, but it's even more significant than that because this woman's coin represented much more than just her life savings. It was her dowry. This coin that she wore around her head as a decoration was the way that she could look after herself if she was widowed or if she was divorced. This was the wealth that she had that she could then put into looking after her life. So the significance of this coin is more than just the bank balance that she had, because this represented her ability to care for herself for the rest of her life. And basically, to lose a coin, to wear that band around in public with the one coin missing was by basically saying to the husband, I don't care about our marriage, I want a divorce. And in a culture where we're being pushed aside and neglected as a lady left you devoid of help, this woman would be looking at a life of destitution forever. So not just would it have been one coin missing, but it would have been her whole reputation and life removed. So as I said, it'd be like telling a husband, I want a divorce. I want out of this. Now that's culturally, in our day, that's pretty hard to deal with. When people go through divorces, wealth is divided between families. The lawyers get rich and the families get poor. Kids and families are all affected emotionally and all that thing. And that would have been going on there, but it would have been times 10, times 100. It would have been even more significant in their culture. In Jesus' time, the woman was left with no rights and no ability to look after herself. So when she had lost a coin, what did she do? She got desperate looking for the lost coin because that coin to her was that important that she really wanted to find it because she did not want a divorce. She did not want to be put aside. She did not want to be left aside and uncared for. She wanted to be part of community. She didn't want to be ostracized. So Jesus told these two stories, and then he comes to tell a third story. Now, I think Jason told one of these stories last year. Was it Luke? Was it the sheep you told last year or the son? Jason preached it on one of these stories. So we've now gone, anyway, from this guy who lost one sheep out of 100, a woman who's lost one coin out of 10, and now we have a father who has lost one son out of 2. I read this story just about a week and a half ago of a father with 4 sons. Just bear with me. I know 4 versus 2, but this father had gone to this large shopping mall in the US. It might have been in Texas. And he took all his sons, and they were going out shopping. And this son was on the autistic spectrum, or the ASD spectrum. He maybe about 7 years old. And they go shopping, and they're looking in their shop, and all of a sudden, 30 seconds, they've turned around, and the son has disappeared. The son has decided, I need to go to the bathroom. And he just went. The parents, in 30, 40 seconds, they're looking desperately, trying to find the son, and they're doing whatever they can to find him. When they look out, they say, well, let's go up here. There's a toy shop over there. They go to the toy shop. He's not in the toy shop. They go to another pet shop. He's not in the pet shop. They're looking through shop after shop after shop. They find a security guard, and they say to the security guard, can you please help us? Our son is lost. And the security guard almost uncaringly says this, where did you leave him? See, when the parents had come out of the shop, they went that way, and the son had gone that way to the bathroom. Son oblivious to the need of the parents' desperation to find him, but the parents were so desperate. This man said, when his son was lost, he did not even care that he had 3 out of 4 still with him. Those 3, he couldn't say, I'll just cut my losses. 3 is good enough. That'll do me. All he cared about was the one son that was lost. That was the focus of all his attention. I've got to find this child, especially seeing as he was on the autistic spectrum. Imagine a father in Jesus' day with 2 sons. Your superannuation is basically your kids looking after you in retirement. And one of your kids comes to you and says, Dad, you know what? I can't be bothered waiting for you to kick the bucket. Just give me my money now. I want out. I want to go. So the father divides the property, and no, it wasn't a 50-50 split because he was the younger son. He got 33%. The older son got the double portion. He got double amount. But the kid gets given this division of property, so he goes and sells it. And I can imagine the older son going, I knew that was going to happen, that ratbag, that dirtbag brother of mine. Well, the son gets the money, and then he moves off to a faraway country in a faraway place. And I want you to understand, the people hearing this story, when they heard that, they thought he has gone and done the worst thing imaginable. He has gone to live with the Gentiles. But Jesus, the master storyteller, tells the story even better than that. He said this young man, he not only has gone to live with the Gentiles, he's living worse than the Gentiles. He's spending all the money, all the wealth that he had accumulated through by telling his dad, I wish you were dead. He's gone and blown it. Spent it all, wasted it all. On prostitutes, on riotous living, on getting drunk, on throwing parties. Yeah, he was probably the guy, the life of the party, as long as he had money. But the moment he ran out of money, he ran out of friends, and he ran out of help. He went and hired himself out to a pig farmer. Now, I told you, the crowd had heard this story was pretty bad. Now they heard pigs, and that still to this day in the Middle East is not something you want to go. Now, I lived in a town called Young, New South Wales. In the town of Young, there was 3 piggeries on 3 entries to town. On the wrong day, that was the most terrible place to ever drive past. The stench, the stink. I mean, I didn't mind it when a sheep truck came driving past me because Young used to be called Lambing Flat. It was a sheep area. But now they had pigs, and lambs, I understand, they're okay. They're kind of even cute. But pigs, they just stink. So I imagine that these Jewish crowd, they despised this young man. He was now as bad as they get. Not only had he said, "Oh, Dad, I wish you did." Not only had he moved to a faraway country to live with the Gentiles and live like a Gentile. Not only has he got involved in a life that is debauch, and now he's working, feeding pigs. Can't get much worse than that, can it? Oh, but it does. Jesus, the master storyteller, says it like this. He says, not only did he feed the pigs, but he thought, I wish I could eat the food that those pigs are eating. And the crowd, I reckon they must have been dry reaching. They must have been thinking, this guy, this young son, he's only getting what he deserves. He doesn't deserve any better. Oh, that father, if he was around, he should have just killed him right from the very start. Because under the Jewish law, when a son was like that, that son should have been put to death under the Old Testament law. But then the Bible tells us something very interesting about this son. He says this son came to his senses, came to himself. And he said, I'm starving to death here. I can't even eat pig food. But my father's servants, they get all their food. I'm going to go to say to my father, Dad, I've sinned against you and I've sinned against heaven. I'm not fit to be called your son. Would you make me a servant? And he must have rehearsed this story because it began to make a lot of sense to him. So he got up and he left where he was and he began to walk that long, far journey back to Israel, back to where the father was. And he came to seek the father. But when he was there, the father saw him a long way off. Significant, the father was looking for him. Just like the shepherd went looking for the sheep. Just like the lady went looking for the coin. The father was looking for the son. When he's a long way off, the father begins to run to him. Culturally, totally unacceptable. This dad, he is not a good dad according to Jewish culture. But shows the heart of God towards us. Because the old men were dignified. They didn't lift their garment to run. But this old man ran. The son who should have been put to death, the father wraps his arms around the son and says, this son that used to be dead is now alive. Get some garments for him, put a ring on him. Said to the guys the other morning, can you imagine any one of us saying to our family member when they come home, maybe they were a drunk or a drug addict, and you say, here, you have the family credit card. That's what the dad did. Put the ring on his finger. That's the authority to run up a bill on the dad's account. I can understand the older brother getting quite upset. The son that had been dead, but the father saw him and brought him back in and said he's now alive. I think that's a rotten way to be. It must be awful to be a lost sheep. And the shepherd goes looking for you. It must be terrible to lose your coin and maybe risk your marriage and risk your livelihood. That must be terrible. But when you lose a family member, that is way worse. The Father, the heart of God for us. The heart of God for people who don't know him. And that's how God feels for people out there watching online. That's how God feels for the people who are part of our community that don't know God yet. His heart breaks for them, but when he sees them, he is already waiting for them to return. So I've told you about 3 kinds of being lost, but I have a 4th kind of being lost. It's like the older brother. Being lost and not knowing you're lost. See, really, the older brother was just as lost as the younger brother. Can you imagine? Well, let me tell you the story about myself. When I was about 22, I went on a missions trip to Spain and over to Estonia, 2 totally different parts of Europe. And the common country that we had to fly through was Frankfurt all the time. We flew into Frankfurt with Lufthansa, and from there we went to Spain and drove from Madrid down to Seville. Then we went back and up to Frankfurt again, then over to Estonia, then up to Finland, then back down to Frankfurt in Germany, and then back to Australia. That was my journey. Spent a month and a half over there. Began to get to know Frankfurt after a little bit, just on those. And I thought this one day, I'm going to get my hair cut. Hair was getting a little bit long. Used to sport a flat top. I've been trying to convince my kids that would be a good idea. They keep telling me no way. So if you see me turn up with a flat top, just let me know that you hate it, and I'll just keep wearing it. No, I don't know. I won't do it because my wife won't let me. Good husband, aren't I? At the age of 22, I was back in Frankfurt again, and I jumped on the train, and I took my passport and my wallet, left my baggage ready to go on the next plane. And I get on the train over to the city of Frankfurt, and I go and get my haircut. $50 for a haircut. Imagine that. 50 Deutschmarks, actually, about $50 at the time. Back in 1996. Well, it wasn't the best haircut I've ever had in my life, but it was definitely the most expensive one I've ever had in my life. And then I have got a bit of time to kill because it was about 9 hours to the next flight. So here's what I did. I thought I'll go to this drum shop. There was this music shop that was only for drums. As a drummer, it was drummer's heaven. I walk in there, there's drums lined up wall to wall, and they have a separate room with 30 drum kits set up. And the guy says, you can go in, you can play as long as you want, but don't touch the tuning and don't adjust the stands. Just go and play. So I did for hours and hours and hours. Obviously, I had a plane to catch. You can probably see where this is going, can't you? Well, I left it a little bit long, and I thought, I know where the train station is. I know what platform to get on, and I was really enjoying myself, being just not feeling like I was a tourist or anything. So I go back to the train station, and I get to the platform where my train is to go from, the right platform. And all these people are getting on the trains with their luggage, so I thought, I don't even need to ask. I hop on the train, and the train goes in the wrong direction. And I'm thinking, hang on, we're meant to go over this bridge across the River Rhine, and it doesn't. And I think you can probably guess the sinking feeling I got in my heart. Because I had been lost, but I didn't even know I was lost. And now I'm starting to get this growing awareness of my lostness. All I had was my passport and my wallet, which is probably a good couple of things to have when you're in another country. At the airport was my brother and 3 or 4 friends. And I think it was 4. That part of the group that did this mission trip. And we were meant to go into Estonia. And they're waiting for me, and they're wondering, where is Nick? He should be here by now. Why isn't he here? And, I had a bit of time, but you're meant to get to the airport early and be at the gate early. And I had just enough time if I had caught the right train. But I caught the wrong train. So after about 20 minutes, growing awareness that I'm lost, thinking, I better get off this train and get the one back to the train station and get the right train, I see the train go straight past the other way before I even got off. But, oh no. So people are vacating the train left, right and centre. At the last stop that I thought brave enough to get off at, there was about 8 people left on the train. They all got off, so I thought I better get off as well. And they just dispersed and disappeared in this rural village just out of Frankfurt. So I had started to follow them when they get to this thing, and then they just go. And I think there's a telephone there, but I can't speak German. And up the end, I saw three German painters, house painters. I know they're painters because they're wearing the white costume painters wear. They're sitting down having coffee at this coffee shop. So I walk up to them and I go, "Sprechen English. 9." See, I had a little bit of German that I picked up from Hogan's Heroes. Thank God for Hogan's Heroes. If you haven't watched Hogan's Heroes, Google it. It's fantastic. It's very good. It's obviously a true account of the way life was in the Second World War, German prisoner of war camps, but, you'll love it. So anyway, I'm in this town, and I go to these Germans, and I say, Sprechen English, 9. And I go, Flughafen. That's one word I had learnt since being in Germany. That's airport. 9. I think I knew that. I say, taxi. That's a good word to know. If you don't know any word in other languages, pretty much taxi and telephone exist in every language. That will help you. Anyway, I say, taxi, 9. Telephone. And I go, how? I go, Flughafen, and telephone, taxi. So one of them walks me down, and he calls up, and I'm talking to an operator who happened to speak a bit of English, and I say, how long would it take for the taxi to get to this place? The painter had told them where I was. Oh, 20 minutes. And I said, oh, 20 minuten or something, however they said it. I understood the 20 minutes. But looking at the time, boarding pass, I meant to be getting on my plane. How long from here to the airport? Oh, another 20 minutes, 20 minutes. And I thought, oh no, I'm going to miss my plane. I'm stuck, I'm lost. I can't even tell my brother because there's no mobile phones in 1996. You know, this is me calling on one of those things that, you know, they're like a phone box. It's like a box with phone for the public. Well, the taxi turns up in about 5 minutes. That was a miracle. He must have been in the area. And I show him my boarding pass. I say, look at this boarding pass. Lufthansa, gate. I show him the gate number. Maybe it was 8 or whatever. And so I'm trying to show, and he said he's nodding his head. I'm sitting in the right-hand seat of the car. He's sitting in the left because it's the opposite, it's Europe. And now he starts to do, drive off there, and I say, schnell, raus, schnell. You know, again, Hogan's Heroes. Fast, quick. Don't know anything else except for those words. So he's driving at 140 kilometres an hour, and I'm sitting in the driver's seat, which made me feel very uncomfortable because there's no driver, there's no steering wheel. And we're going very, very fast in a Mercedes-Benz taxi. He gets me to the airport. Unbeknownst to me, my plane had been delayed. Fortunately, one of the runways had been damaged, so my plane had been put back. But anyway, I'm in the airport now, and I'm running through the second biggest airport in the whole world. But he has put me at the right gate, the right area, so I'm now running through, but I have to get through customs, I have to get through immigration. Is that the same thing? No, they're different, aren't they? I get through both those gates. But I come up to this lady standing in line, I say, I'm lost, I'm late, I'm going to miss my plane, can you please let me through? No, she didn't understand a word I said. But she's nodding her head. But I just have to wait there patiently. But I get ushered through by the security guards, they barely checked me. And then I'm running through this airport, me, my leather jacket, and my new haircut. My wallet, my passport, that kind of thing. And I'm running down this area, and they're ushering me, and they're showing me that they must have been putting the call out for me for a long time. Because they're just showing me, they know who I am and what I'm there for, which amazed me, but they keep pointing me. And I get to the gate, and fortunately, the plane was still leaving from the same gate, the right gate, that had my boarding pass. And they say, just go, stamp, click, out you go, down the stairs and onto the bus, and there's my brother, my friends. Oh, where is this idiot? I have to explain myself to the leader of the team, as you do. I'd done something wrong. But anyway, I explained myself to my friend Alan. And we're sitting on the plane now while we're waiting to take off. We take off, and the airline stewardess hears us as I'm recounting my story to my friend. And she hears the Australian accent, and she says, you know what, the pilot on our plane here is an Australian. He'd like to meet you guys. We've told him you got... So we get taken over to the airport, to the cockpit of the plane. This is before 2001, before 9/11, when they actually used to let passengers into the airport, into the cockpit. But I get brought in, and we meet and we chat to this guy, then we go back and sit down. He said, tell you what, guys, when we come in for a landing, come in, sit down on the jump seat, and you can watch us land the plane. I got to sit in the cockpit of the airplane, coming into Thailand Airport as it landed. I went from being so totally lost and desperate, thinking, how on earth am I ever going to make it back to my team, back to my group, back to these people, to having such an incredible reward. Oh, what a blessing. That won't ever happen again, hopefully. But I won't get put in the cockpit, I'm sure. The plane had been delayed, and I managed to get on it. But I can't tell you how it felt when I began to realise just how lost I was. But once I realised just how lost I was, I would do whatever I could to get found. I would do whatever I could, make every effort, and try and make it to that airport just to get on my aeroplane because I did not want to be separated and miss the boat. think you might be getting the picture. The son, bad son, the number 3 son. Sorry, the number 2 son came to his senses. And when he came to his senses, he did the journey he had to get back to his father. The worst kind of lost is the lost that you are doing when you don't even know you're lost. The best thing that can happen for us is to realize that we're lost and we need to be found. So Jesus tells his stories. There's a whole group of people there who, instead of realizing that they were the lost ones, like the older brother, the Pharisees, they just begin to hate Jesus even more. There are people out there online, there are people out in our community, they don't know Jesus. Some of them are living a riotous life, and some of them are living a righteous life. But both of them are lost. Both of them are separated from God, and what both cases need is to realize that they are lost and they need to be found. The Bible tells us that the Son of Man came to seek and save that which was lost. That which was lost was not a coin, it was not a sheep, but it was a son. It is a son and a daughter. It is precious people. We need to make whatever effort we can to be found, knowing this, that when we come, it's totally by grace. It's 100% because of what God did for us that we can be found and accepted. He puts a new robe around us. He covers up our sin and gets rid of it. It's gone. He makes us a son all over again, not just a servant. That's the kind of God we serve. That's how those 3 stories work. I hope I've done it justice today. Today, if you're listening online, maybe you've just been hearing me preaching for the first time, or maybe you've been tuning in for a number of weeks. But as I've been speaking, you begin to realize I'm feeling lost. I don't feel close to God. And you're wondering, what can I do about it? Maybe like me with that aeroplane, you're thinking, I'm worried I might miss my flight. I might miss my opportunity. I might miss the ability to come close to God. Well, if that's you, if that's where you're at, today is the day of salvation, the Bible tells us. If you recognize that you are needing Jesus, then I want to encourage you to do whatever you can to come close to Jesus, recognizing the fact that he has done everything he could for you and for me. God is actually looking for sinners today still. He came to seek and save the lost. He is still seeking the lost. That matters because those lost people are your family. They're your friends. They're your neighbours. They're your colleagues. They're my friends, my family, my colleagues, my neighbours. And we need to do what we can to help them come to know Christ. So I want to pray and I want to close out as we come to have that last song. But I want to close with a prayer. And maybe if you're joining us and you want to join this prayer, you're very welcome too. We're going to ask God to forgive us for our sin. And we're going to ask God to bring us close to himself again. Told the leadership community yesterday, I want to give you any opportunity you can here in the church or online to invite your friends to Jesus. But if you don't know how to, if you invite them to church, I'll invite them to Jesus on your behalf. So today, I want to invite you, right where you are, would you pray this prayer with me? Every head bowed and every eye closed. The prayer will be on the board behind me. Dear Lord, I admit that I'm a sinner and have done many things that don't please you. I've lived my life for myself, and I'm sorry and I repent. I ask you to forgive me. I believe that you died on the cross to save me. You did for me what I could not do for myself. So I come to you now and I surrender control of my life. And I surrender it to you. From this day forward, help me to live every day for you in a way that pleases you. I love you, Lord. And I thank you that I will spend eternity with you. Amen. Saints, God bless you. I look forward to having a good conversation and chat with you after church. If you're online and you prayed that prayer, I want to encourage you. Why don't you reach out to us and let us know? Maybe reach out and have a chat and catch up during the week. God bless you. Thank you, Mick. Thank you, team.
chorus of this song. Who the Son sets free, oh, he's free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Let's rise and sing our last song, Who You Say I Am. Who am I that the highest King would welcome me? I was lost, but he brought me in. Oh, his love for me. Oh, his love for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, he's free. I'm a child of God, yes I am. Free at last he has ransomed me, his grace runs deep. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, he died for me. The Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am who you say I am. The Son sets free, oh, he's free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. Thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you for singing so well. We have tea and coffee. We have coffee that you can pay for out at the back as well, in Cafe Essence. So feel free to hang around and have a chat, say good day, and thanks for joining us this morning. Have a great week.